Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Continuing now with the journey of Yusuf alayhi salam, the story now jumps to the 7-year period in which the region faces a severe drought, just as predicted in the king's dream. Yusuf alayhi salam by now has stored substantial food during the previous 7-year period of prosperity, and given the situation within the region, people from nearby cities started to come to Egypt to barter for food. In other words, they would exchange whatever merchandise, whatever goods they had, in exchange for food. Yusuf alayhi salam, being the treasurer, was in charge of this. So he was overlooking this entire process. He was the one who would accept the merchandise from people, and he was the one who would give them food in exchange. Now, on one occasion, Yusuf's 10 brothers came to Egypt with this intention, to barter goods for food. Their father did not travel with them because of his old age, and Benjamin, the youngest brother, didn't come either because Yaqub alayhi salam kept him nearby for protection purposes. Clearly, after Yusuf's incident, Yaqub alayhi salam had lost trust in his 10 boys, and he would not allow Benjamin to go with them. Now, immediately Yusuf alayhi salam recognizes his 10 brothers, but they don't seem to recognize him. And after the barter has taken place, and the 10 brothers have been given food supplies in exchange, Yusuf alayhi salam asks them to bring their brother next time, otherwise they will not be given any food in the future. The brothers make it clear that they will try to persuade their father, as he doesn't allow Benjamin to go anywhere. Now, surprisingly, Yusuf's statement should have appeared alarming to the 10 brothers. After all, how did he know that they had another brother? At that time, once barter had taken place, each person would be given 1 bag of food supplies. Since 10 men were there, they should have been given 10 bags of food supplies, but they requested for 11, since their youngest brother did not come. So in other words, they told Yusuf alayhi salam that take all of our merchandise, and in exchange, please give us 11 bags of food, not 10, because the 11th belongs to our brother who we did not bring along with us, as his father does not leave him. Upon hearing that, Yusuf alayhi salam agreed to extend them this favor this time, on the condition that next time the brother has to come as well. Then, to ensure that the brothers return with Benjamin quickly, Yusuf alayhi salam placed all of the goods that the brothers had bartered back into their bags without them knowing. So in other words, whatever they gave to Yusuf in exchange for food, all of it was returned to them. Now, of course, we could ask, how will this ensure that the 10 brothers will return with Benjamin very quickly? The reason is because when they go back to Palestine and they open up their bags and they find that not only have they been given food, but the goods they exchanged have all been returned to them, they will be very likely to come back to Yusuf with those returned goods in exchange for even more food. But why is Allah directing Yusuf to do this? Why not just tell the brothers who he was? Similar to the Aziz's wife and the women at the banquet, Allah was creating the perfect condition which would increase the likelihood of the brothers repenting and doing tawbah. In the case of the Aziz's wife, which I mentioned in the previous episode, she definitely felt guilt regarding what she had done, which is why she never said anything to defame Yusuf in his absence. She simply remained quiet. But she didn't have the courage to admit the truth either. Since she worshipped power, the ideal condition of tawbah for her was to admit the truth in front of the most powerful man in the nation at that time, the king. At that moment, she understood how powerless she actually was in comparison to Yusuf, who was dictating his conditions to the king. So the man who she thought was powerless ended up having so much more power than her, to the extent that he's giving his conditions to the king, and the king is listening to Yusuf alayhi salam. And that made her understand that true power only is in the hands of Allah. Now, in the case of the brothers, they also believed that they were powerful, but unlike the Aziz's wife, their problem was not just that they couldn't admit the truth to their father, they also did not feel guilt. The Aziz's wife never defamed Yusuf in his absence because she did feel guilt. But the brothers did defame Yusuf, as evident in the remaining part of the story. So to increase the chances of the brothers doing tawbah, they needed to feel guilt. And the best way of doing that was to place them in the exact same situation that they were in decades ago. A situation in which they will have to make a promise to their father, which will subsequently be broken, breaking their father's heart once again. They had to be reminded how much pain they caused him because of their lies. While they believed they were now doing good deeds, so Allah will forgive them for what they did to Yusuf, they had to be reminded of the weight of their crime. Not only did they leave their young brother alone in a well, but in addition they hurt the father whose attention and love they craved. But they couldn't see it. So by reliving their past and by seeing how much hurt it caused their father, chances of feeling guilt were more likely. That is why Yusuf told the brothers to bring Benjamin next time. So from this, what we understand is that Allah plans our lives in such a way that when we make mistakes, when we do wrong things, Allah creates a perfect condition for us to do tawbah. Of course, it is then our choice if we wish to do tawbah or not. But Allah creates those conditions because He's helping us. So when the brothers went back and requested their father, Yaqub alayhi salam reminded them of how they had broken their trust regarding Yusuf in the past. While Yaqub alayhi salam acknowledges that Allah is the best of guardians, implying that Allah must be looking after Yusuf, he also blames the sons for deceiving him by promising to be a guardian for Yusuf, yet neglecting their duties. Naturally, while this discussion is taking place, and the sons are being reminded of their past negligence and crime, they suddenly realize that all the merchandise, all the goods that they had given to Yusuf in exchange for food has been returned to them. So instead of bickering or arguing with their father, they now start begging their father to allow them to return to Egypt with Benjamin to get even more food in exchange. So at this point, Yaqub alayhi salam agrees on the condition that they take an oath to protect Benjamin unless they are completely surrounded by enemies and they have no choice. Now, as it was decided that the 11 sons will go to Egypt to get 11 bags worth of food, Yaqub alayhi salam advises them to not enter the city through one gate. Now, you can imagine during a famine, when the entire region is suffering, seeing a family with 11 sons enter the city to get 11 bags of food would simply increase the likelihood of them being attacked or robbed. Therefore, while Yaqub understands that whatever is destined by Allah must come, he also understands that as a human who has been granted aql, he has to try to come up with the best possible strategies. Trusting Allah or leaving it to Allah does not mean that a Muslim should just pray without figuring out solutions to his own problems. This is a very important lesson. While we all need to pray to Allah and do what we think is best, we must also be willing to submit to Allah's plan. So Yaqub wanted his boys to return safely, and he came up with a brilliant strategy. But at the same time, he understood that regardless of what he does, Allah's plan will prevail. And if Allah has planned for something else, he must rely upon God. Being the possessor of knowledge and being extremely wise, Yaqub gave his sons a strategy while also learning to submit to Allah's decree. And that is what we all have to understand as well. We plan, but Allah plans too. And ultimately, it is a plan of Allah that will prevail. That does not mean that we should not find solutions. That does not mean that we should just give up and pray to Allah and not try or do anything ourselves. What it means is that keep trying to find solutions. Keep trying to come up with different strategies to solve your own problems. But at the same time, understand that you must submit to Allah's plan. You must submit to whatever Allah has decreed for you. Assalamu alaikum.